Good morning, everyone out there listening out in Radio Land. It's your good buddy Spider, and you're sipping coffee with Spider. Or maybe you're sipping tea, or maybe you're sipping malt liquor this early in the morning. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to judge. If that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing. So, I'm going to start off. I'm going to start off with a story that irritates me. And you're probably all going, "Oh, big surprise! Something irritates Spider. What is it?" I'm going to read you the headline. It's from Reuters. I probably won't get into the story because Reuters is paywalled, of course, which is very unfortunate. And the story is Biden attacks Republicans for, quote, "Maganomics," unquote, as government shutdown looms. Now, I don't particularly care about the argument he has with the opposite political party. That's all theater and that's all petty. Nobody cares. Okay? What bugs me is government shutdown. Never, ever, ever should a country's government just shut down because they run out of money. That should never, ever, ever happen. And it's happened so many times over the last many years, over 3 or 4 different administrations at least. And it's ridiculous. How can the people in charge of an entire nation just shut down because they run out of money? I don't get it. It angers me every single time. It's not something that should ever happen. Apparently, it's become fairly common now to fight over the government staying open, and that makes 0 sense to anybody. If you can afford to send billions of dollars to the Ukraine, then you can afford to keep the government running and to keep the lights on and to pay all your federal workers. That's the fact. If you cannot do both, then there's a clear solution. Stop sending money to the Ukraine, to Saudi Arabia, to India, to Canada, to everywhere that we send money to. Stop. Stop. Pay the federal government if you really need to. There's no reason, like a government shutting down. It's ridiculous. Think about it. For real, think about it. It's ridiculous. Here we go from Science Alert. Now, this is interesting. Let's see if it's actually as interesting as the headline. The headline says, "It's official. NASA finally unveils its first serious, quote-unquote, report on UFOs." It's got a blurry picture to accompany of a so-called UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon. In response to a new report from an independent panel, NASA says it has appointed a director in charge of research into UFOs, now known as UAPs, and will work with other agencies to widen the net for collecting UAP data. Quote, "This is the first time that NASA has taken concrete action to seriously look into unidentified aerial phenomena," NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said today during a news briefing at NASA's headquarters in Washington. This was last week, of course, not today, but that's the article. NASA initially kept the name of its UAP research director under wraps, but later in the day, the agency identified him as Mark McInerney, I don't know, who has previously served as NASA's just trying to say his name's got me all twisted all over the place. NASA's liaison to the Department of Defense on the UAP issue. Nelson, goodness, McInerney. It's got my tongue all over the place trying to pronounce it, and I can't say anything. Nelson downplayed the idea that aliens were behind any of the anomalous phenomena recorded to date, but he pledged to keep an open mind. So we'll see. We know how far we've gotten so far with the hearings and all this other stuff. We haven't gotten very far at all. It's been like throw a bone to the masses, and we got UFOs. Let's talk about them, and then nothing much happens after that. So let's see. I'll keep my mind open as well. The Verge with some good news for classic Super Nintendo players. F-Zero returns to this. This is going to be an ongoing thing. I'm going to try my best. F-Zero returns to the Switch in F-Zero 99, and that's cool. F-Zero was like back before really like when things were, if it was on Super Nintendo, it was always exclusive to Super Nintendo. If it was on Sega, it was always exclusive to Sega, and there was only a few things that crossed back and forth. F-Zero was one of the big games for Super Nintendo. It was one of their first big games. And so it's interesting to see them bringing it back. It's not unexpected. They've been trying to cash in on nostalgia for a while. It's interesting, though. I mean, I have the online service for the Switch in my household, so I'll probably see if I can play it up a little bit. Oh, come on now. Now this just bugs me. Local 3 news. Update. 2 people charged after 177 animals removed from home in Walker County. Where was this? Which Walker County? Like, what's the state? Pulling up the article now. It's near Chattanooga, so I guess it's I don't know, somewhere in the south. All of the animals have been taken to the Walker County Animal Shelter. A spokesperson said that a number of the animals recovered from the property are owned by other individuals. The shelter will be closed until Monday, which was the 18th, so that's a couple days ago, to allow staff time to contact their owners and work to move animals at the shelter not associated with this case to nearby shelters and rescues. And 2 residents, of course, this was a previous story, that was an update, are facing animal cruelty charges. That bugs me. It's dogs, pigs, rabbits, and chickens. And it's 2 people, 57 and 72, these old people. Why? Why do they do this? Why do you just collect animals? Like, you can't take care of them, and they gotta be so loud. Like, you can't even think straight. Like, so many of them all at once. Come on. You're just... If you think you're a rescue and you're trying to rescue all of them, you're not. You're just making things worse for them. They're suffering now. Man, that sucks. But hopefully they will all end up getting homes, or at least being allowed to live out the rest of their lives, and not the alternative, which does tend to happen with shelters when they have so many. And I don't want that to happen. It's not the animal's fault. It's not their fault. Don't punish them that way. That makes me grouchy. I hate seeing stuff like that. I mean, I've at times had a large number of animals in the house to take care of at once, but I've kept it manageable. I don't have hundreds. I don't have dozens. I don't have, an amount of animals that can't be adequately living happy lives as best I can do for them. This is just ridiculous. Anyway, moving on. From HuffPost, which, as I've said before, is not always the most reliable source, but it's a fun-looking headline. Radiation levels force iPhone model off the market in France. Ooh, your iPhones are giving you radiation. Let's see. Regulators ordered Apple to stop selling one particular model, saying it failed a test for electromagnetic waves that are capable of being absorbed by the body. Ooh. They ordered Apple to stop selling the iPhone 12, saying it emits electromagnetic radiation levels that are above European Union standards for exposure. Of course, the company disputed the findings and said the device complies with regulation. That's just gonna fire some people up. That's gonna get the people who are like, "Oh, I told you it's the 5G. The 5G is gonna mess us up." And there is some. If you take the conspiracy part out of it, there is some truth to electromagnetic waves causing you harm. EMF radiation has been known to cause mood shifts, to cause irritation, to cause anxiety. It's the cornerstone for why mystic-minded people go into places and use sage to clear the air. It's not because it's all necessarily a spiritual thing. Sage produces, when it's burned, white sage, when it's burned, produces negative ions, whereas EMF produces positive ions. And negative ions reduce the amount of positive ions in an area, which clears the air. It literally clears the air so that you can think and be better. So I find that funny that your iPhone is basically trying to kill you. Ah, boy. Here's an interesting story. I'm not going to read into it because I'm sure there's a lot to it, but Washington Post, how Lego bricks went from 5 colors to nearly 200. Now, I like Legos. I used to play with Legos a lot as a kid. And my daughter plays with Legos now. And there are a lot more colors now than there were when I was a kid, I'll say that. I don't know if there were only 5 colors at the time or, what the spread was. But there are more now since they're targeting so many different audiences. And if you're interested in finding out the story, then go to the Washington Post and find out. Engadget. Cyberpunk 2077's free 2.0 update arrives September 21st. And that'll be tomorrow. Although I won't report on it for about a week, of course. But maybe I'll make some special dispensation and I'll talk about it. I don't know. We'll see. Because I always have everything a week behind, just so I can, digest and present it and all that good stuff. But that's cool. They're gearing up to their expansion, which is I think Phantom Liberty is what it's called. And so the big 2.0 update is supposed to change a lot of ways how the game plays. I'm kind of worried about it because one of the things that they're changing is something that I use pretty heavily in the game. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I guess we'll find out. What else do we have? Baldur's Gate 3. This is from PC Gamer. Baldur's Gate 3's third patch has a release date will bring the RPG to PC gaming's black sheep, the humble Mac. And I guess that sounds about right. I don't know how many people actually use a Mac these days. Mostly they'll use an iPad or they'll use a PC. I mean, most creative types moved on from the iMac and all that other kind of stuff into iPads and haven't looked back. And I've never liked Apple products in general. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth them, but I just don't like them. I've never liked them. I've never liked their interface. When I was a techie guy back in the day in school using the various computers, I never liked Macintosh. They were difficult to work on for me. They were difficult to work around. And growing up in a PC household, I knew more about how PCs worked. So, I don't know. But if you play Mac and you're excited for new games, you'll be getting Baldur's Gate 3 in the near future. CBS News, a luxury cruise ship that ran aground in Greenland with over 200 people on board is freed. So that was some good news. Been a lot of problems with cruise ships the last 5-10 years. Getting stuck. One of them rolled over in shallow water somewhere. Like it ran aground and rolled over, and then there was the captain was drunk or something like that. I don't remember. He got in a lot of trouble for it, but cruises seem to be the next big thing that's going wrong with the world. Cruises. And I don't know. And there's been people like jumping off boats and being pushed off the ships and things like that. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. It's a mad world out there. It is a mad world. From NBC2 News, a 4-year-old police dog named Yoda detained the Pennsylvania fugitive Danilo Cavalcante, bringing an end to the exhaustive, nearly 2-week-long manhunt. Of course, that would have been a week ago. But remember, I've been talking about it on the show for everybody to keep an eye out. And that's good. He was a dangerous guy, and it's good that they've caught him again and they put him away. It's always good when they catch somebody that's out on the run, because you can't stay out on the run forever. You can try, but these days with Google Maps and with satellites and with all this kind of stuff, they'll find you. It depends on what kind of damage you do in the meantime. Let's see what's next. It's kind of a slow news day, to be honest. There's not much going on that I can see. Associated Press. Now, this sounds interesting. Wisconsin's Senate votes to override Evers' 400-year veto and his gutting of tax increase. What's this about a 400-year veto? Let's see. Let's pull up the story and find out. Republicans who control the Wisconsin Senate voted Thursday to override 3 of Governor Tony Evers' vetoes, including one that attempted to enshrine school funding increases for 400 years. Republicans had the necessary 2/3 majority to override the vetoes in the Senate and did so in a series of 22-11 votes along party lines, but they don't have enough votes in the Assembly. Vetoes must be overridden in both chambers in order to undo them. Wow. That's crazy. 400 years. I think he probably wanted that to be basically like for the lifetime. For life. 400 years sounds good. It's a weirdly specific number, 400. But, I guess he just picked one that was big that would work. So, I mean, good try. But it doesn't look like they're going to override it, so he's going to have it, I suppose. I suppose. Here's something for anybody who is a fan of old pseudo-platforming 3D third-person games. WWG reports that classic Tomb Raider remastered collection revealed. And, yeah, they've made her less pointy. If you know what I mean. She's less pointy and looks slightly more proportionate in this picture they have of one of the remasters. I always had a hard time with those games. Like, everything moved so sluggish. Maybe with the updates that they'll move faster, but I don't know. Maybe. Here's some controversy. Not that I sneeze, but another one from HuffPost because they love their controversy. Wheel of Fortune fans call out garbage puzzle answer that made 0 sense. Let's see which one this was. On Wednesday, as of a week ago, episode of the long-running game show, contestant Laren Nelson, a quote very spirited elementary school principal from Atlanta, screamed and again quote pouted so passionately when she realized she had lost a car for failing the bonus round. And she made Pat Sajak jump and drop his cards. She apologized immediately after her enthusiastic reaction. Let's see. The clue was, "What are you doing?" And Nelson seemed to have figured out the last word in the phrase, which was goals, but was thrown off by the 2 words that preceded it. As she ran out of time, she eventually gave the guess pitching my goals. But the puzzle's answer was actually obtaining my goals. That seems kind of harsh. Obtaining, pitching. I would, if I was a judge, I'd say I'd give it to you. How are you gonna figure out obtaining in the bonus round? I don't know. Fizz.org coming at you. Isle of Wight fossils suggests Europe had its own family of small herbivorous dinosaurs. And that's cool. There were very specific dinosaur species all over. Like China has its own, North America has its own, as far as where the continents were at the time before everything broke up. And yeah, dinosaurs stayed in particular regions sometimes. I mean, there were some that roamed as far as they could roam on migrations and things of that nature. But there are others that were very specific to certain regions. And I think that's cool. It shows that they had home turf, so to speak. ABC News with basically stating the obvious: U.S. to sanction 150 Russian supporting entities over war in Ukraine. Of course, because what is the United States doing? Putting the screws to Russia, specifically the Russian economy. Hit them where it hurts, hit them in the wallet. That's what the United States is doing. And that could be, once again, at the risk of sounding sympathetic, that could be one of the reasons over the many years that they don't like us and that they're doing things like this. It's because we keep hammering away at that pocketbook. Just food for thought there. Food for thought. Associated Press: shelter in place lifted after fire at Michigan paper mill produces plumes of heavy smoke. Man, it's been a smoky year. Here's something in Michigan just from a paper mill, but we had those Canadian wildfires. In Ohio, in part of Ohio, we had the train derailment with the chemicals in the air. Oh man, Things have been nuts. Plus, there's still, people are still upset about the virus and it's supposed to target the lungs and all this other stuff, and nobody can breathe. It's like breathing has become this thing we take for granted anymore. It's crazy. Everything seems to be targeting our breathing. If I was a conspiracy person, I would say there's something there, but I'm not really, and I'm not gonna. I might plant that in the heads of some people who are, and then you can worry about it. But that's what it seems like. Sometimes it's funny. It's funny to me. It seems like everything that goes on is an attempt to keep people indoors and to keep people from breathing the free air. I don't know. Again, I'm not going to get into conspiracies. That's not my bag. But, yeah. Reuters, I can't read it because it's paywall. But anyway, the Union of Auto Workers nears strike at Detroit 3 as Ford blasts the union. Of course. This is a story I've been watching. Oh, and I don't know. If they're sticking to their guns, I think they're going to be on strike for a while. If they stick to this plan of trying to get 32-hour work weeks while still getting paid for 40, plus 46% increase in pay raises across the board for their base level workers, it's not. It's never going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I'm just waiting for the stories to roll in about violence along the picket line when the big automakers start hiring up the scabs. I see it. And I don't want that to happen. But I think it's going to happen. Here's a cool one. CBS News. Artifacts found in Israel were used by, quote, professional sorcerers in magical rituals 4 centuries ago. That's cool. It says Israeli researchers have uncovered artifacts that, quote, professional sorcerers used in magical rituals hundreds of years ago, the Israel Antiquities Authority said in the news release. The professional sorcerers would have been visited by Muslim pilgrims traveling from Cairo in Egypt to the city of Mecca in the Arabian Peninsula. The rituals would include attempts to ward off the evil eye, heal diseases, and more. The 3 researchers on the product said in a joint statement that the discovery shows that people in the early Ottoman period, just as today, consulted popular sorcerers alongside the formal belief in the official religion. Orthodox Islam was not quite so strict at the time, huh? What has happened? Just like Orthodox Judaism was kind of strict, but in other ways kind of not. And Christianity was not as strict as it is now. Interesting stuff. Interesting connotations, I guess you could say. And it's only 30 seconds to the half-hour mark. And so I'm going to go ahead and wind it down with that cool story. I like that. I like stuff like that. It shows that we don't know everything that we thought we knew about the past. We don't know that maybe things weren't quite as differentiated, weren't as strictly enforced as they are today. But anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop a comment on this video. Like, share, subscribe, etc. on YouTube. You can also send me an email at uncannyspiritsclub@gmail.com, and I will read it. And yeah, so go ahead. Enjoy your day. Enjoy everything about it. And come back tomorrow for another day sipping coffee with me, your buddy, Spider. I'll see you then.